Good morning and welcome. My name is Liz Sweeney and I'm the CEO of Family Services of the Merrimack Valley. I want to start by thanking you for participating in this year's Walk for Hope. It has certainly been a challenging and unprecedented year. I realize that most of you may have been inspired to join us because you have a personal connection to the issue of mental health and suicide. So I want to acknowledge that connection and thank you for turning your grief and your difficult experiences into positive action that will help others and save lives. In this age of extreme stress that has come with the COVID-19 pandemic, we know that the issues of mental health and suicide are more important now than ever. And yet, public and private funding for these programs that effectively address these issues has always fallen short. Our Samaritans program, which provides a host of suicide prevention programs, relies on the generosity of individuals and businesses like you. We cannot do it alone. There is more work that needs to be done. More people who need our help, more crisis calls to answer, more trainings to be provided. And we cannot do that alone. We rely on people like you to help. So thank you again for participating in this year's Walk for Hope. And thank you for asking your friends and family to also participate. We cannot do this alone. It truly takes a team effort. Solving the problems of suicide and mental health issues is something that requires all of us working together, our time, our talent, and our treasure. So have a great walk.
Thank you all for joining the 4th annual Samaritans Walk for Hope. One of the things that we hope to accomplish with this walk is just normalize talking about, discussing, coming to terms with mental health issues in our families and in our community. My personal experience with this really started with my time in the Marines, and specifically coming back from the Marines and recognizing that a lot of guys I served with had mental health issues. And it was in talking to them and hearing some of their stories that I came to terms with the fact that I had some issues myself. You know, at first I figured that my particular symptoms, waking up in the middle of the night with cold sweats, having bad dreams, weren't anything to worry about. I mean, I had fellow veterans, close friends of mine, who were scared to drive down a highway for fear that an IED would blow up right back here at home in America, afraid to get on a subway, literally contemplating suicide on a daily basis. So I said, my symptoms are so minor in comparison. I don't even think it qualifies as post-traumatic stress. But after talking to fellow Marines and eventually talking to a mental health professional, I realized I've got post-traumatic stress too. And I've got to deal with it. I've got to confront it and be proactive at dealing with this mental health challenge the same way I would deal with a sprained ankle or a broken knee, a physical health challenge. Our hope with events like this is that it starts the conversation with people who aren't there yet, who aren't willing to have those conversations about mental health and how it impacts their own lives or the lives of their loved ones. But ultimately, it's by having those conversations that we save lives. I'm so proud of all of you who helped support the legislation that we just passed through the House and the Senate, now going to the President's desk to make 988 the National Mental Health Hotline, so that no matter where you are, if you have a mental health crisis or a friend or a loved one, you know what number to call. Imagine if you woke up in the middle of the night and your house were burning down and you had to find a phone book to know how to call the fire department. That's why we established 911. Well, we are establishing 988 for the same reason, and literally the day it's implemented, it is going to save lives. We're much closer now. So thank you for all your work. It matters. The conversation matters because it impacts people's lives. It saves lives. And that's why I'm so proud of all that you're doing.
Hi, my name is Rosemary Heisler. I have been volunteering with the Samaritans for 15 years. And they asked me to give a short talk about how I came to Samaritans and what I do for Samaritans. I lost my sister Carol Ann to suicide. She was 23. Her first attempt was at the age of 18. After about 5 years of many attempts, hospitalizations, anything we could do as a family to save her. She ultimately took her own life. And 10 years after that, my mother, Elizabeth, as well, took her own life at the age of 57. As a family, we were not privy to any information for survivors, those left behind after the loss of a loved one to suicide. We didn't know who to turn to, who to talk to. My parents never talked to anybody after my sister passed away. As her sister, I never talked to anybody. I didn't know anybody who had experienced depression or suicide or attempts or anything. I didn't know who to talk to. The only one who helped me at all during any of this was a funeral director who handed me a book. And I did read that book and had a couple of aha moments. Never talked about it, even with my own family. We never talked about Carol. Never talked about my mom afterwards. We didn't know what to say. We couldn't comfort one another. We were in too much pain. And this is where Samaritans comes in. As a survivor, we need an outlet to talk to somebody. We need to be able to be with people who know what we're going through. And that's what Samaritans does for survivors. They do a phenomenal job to help with suicide prevention. But as far as the aftermath, there's not many people out there or doctors who even know what to do. So we have a group at Samaritans called Safe Place. I facilitate Safe Place in North Andover. We have many groups around Massachusetts. I've been working with Samaritans since 2005, first with the hotline. And they asked me to train to be a facilitator for Safe Place, and I said, what's Safe Place? So I joined the Medford group for a while and then did extensive training to become a facilitator. And I've been leading the North Andover group for about 12 years now. This is a group of suicide survivors. We come together twice a month. We sit together. It's a drop-in meeting. I never know how many people I'm going to get. I could have 1, I could have 25. I never know who's coming. But for many people, this Safe Place has been an outlet for coming together as survivors to cry, to listen, to talk, to commiserate, to grieve, and to show support for one another. We need to talk about our loved ones. We need to say their names. We need to share stories. We need to talk about what we're going through now, what we've been through, what's coming up. And we support one another. You'll see many people listening and nodding as someone is talking about what they're going through. It makes you feel not so alone. I remember feeling so alone after my sister died, and especially after my mother died, having 2 suicides, which was unheard of, so rare. I had nobody to talk to, nobody to turn to. These people are the most wonderful people I have ever met in my life. I have made dear friends at Samaritans. Many people come to my group for years, and I believe it has saved many lives. I believe if my mother had had a group like this and talked to other parents, she'd be alive today. We need to talk about our loved ones. We need to celebrate their life and not dwell so much on how they died. If my mother had died from a heart attack or cancer, I could readily talk to most people about that. But the mere fact that she took her own life turns people off, turns people away. I can't bring it up in normal conversation. I don't know who I'm going to upset or have people snub me or turn away, turn around in the grocery store when they see me coming down with my cart, because these things have happened to me. Safe Place gives you an outlet where you can talk about your loved one. You can talk about your daughter and your son. You can talk about your dad and your mom, your friend, your coworker, your brother and your sister, your boyfriend, your husband, your wife. At some level, we all know what you're going through, and we are there to help you. Talking to these people has helped my healing, and I know it can help yours. If this is something that you feel that you need to help you with your grieving process, please contact the Samaritans of Merrimack Valley. Call Debbie Helms. I'm sure that her number is right on this website for the walk. With COVID, we have not been meeting since March, and I am doing a monthly Zoom meeting. If you get in touch with Debbie, she will give me your information. I can talk to you via Zoom privately. You can join our group. I can call you by phone. We can email. I can even try and make a in-person meeting and make that as safe as possible for you. So please reach out to Samaritans if you need help, whether it's prevention or the aftermath of a suicide loss. We are here for you. And thank you for tuning into our walk, and I hope that you will donate, because we're doing a great outreach for this community, and I think with COVID, the aftermath of the mental health community is going to be immeasurable. So thank you again.
Hello, my name is Dianna Desaglio, and I humbly serve as State Senator for the 1st Essex District here in the Merrimack Valley. I want to thank all of the staff and volunteers at Samaritans of the Merrimack Valley for the crucially important work you do every day in our community, and for the opportunity to say a few words today. Beyond the physical and financial anxieties it's created, the COVID-19 emergency has caused so many of us to experience feelings of loneliness and isolation. It's resulted in more stress and depression, and worse, drawn away some of the resources for dealing with these very serious issues. Even before the COVID-19 emergency, we were seeing increased suicide rates, especially among our youth. And that trend has only worsened in recent months. That's why it is so imperative now more than ever to support organizations like Samaritans of the Merrimack Valley, who are committed to providing services to those struggling with mental health challenges. Over the course of this emergency, it's crucial that we continue to check in on our neighbors, our coworkers, family, and friends to let them know that they're not alone. Thank you again to Samaritans of the Merrimack Valley for your commitment to helping those who are lonely, depressed, or contemplating self-injury or even suicide. The work that you continue to do is absolutely invaluable, and I'm truly honored to be able to be a part of your event today and support your initiatives and the great work that you do. Here's to a safe and successful Walk for Hope. Thank you.
My name is Brian Langren, and I am a former staff member of the Samaritans of Merrimack Valley and a member of this year's committee for the Walk for Hope. The research data, according to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, tells us that more than 48,000 people died by suicide every year. That is 132 people per day. 90% of these people had a diagnosable and treatable mental health disorder at the time of their death. We've gathered here today to raise awareness, decrease the stigma, and support research that will help identify and treat people suffering from mental illness, with the ultimate goal of lowering those numbers. In September of 2018, we lost 4,000 individuals to suicide. Now, as you may or may not know, September 10th is World Suicide Prevention Day, a day to remember, reflect, and share our reasons for wanting to raise awareness on the stigma surrounding mental health. These are the statistics, but we all know that behind every statistical data point mentioned above, there is a real human being. Someone that is loved beyond death and who during their life had many hopes and dreams. And that is why we gather for our Walk for Hope, to remember those who are not here today to walk their own path. 4,000 steps together for 4,000 lives lost. Sometimes those with the darkest pasts create the brightest of futures. And because of this COVID-19 pandemic that we are currently going through, the CDC report shows that 40.9% of adults say that they've had at least one mental health effect, including symptoms of anxiety or depression, symptoms of trauma or stressor-related disorders, and starting or increasing substance use to cope. Now more than ever, it is important that we fight for each other and work towards this year's Walk for Hope. Now, I turn to all of you who have registered to walk this year, and I do not see a monetary number of people fundraising for a cause. Rather, I see a gathering of really special individuals who are willing to work together to ease the suffering of many, all in the name of love and remembrance. In the name of countless other human beings. I, along with the Samaritans of Merrimack Valley and Family Service of the Merrimack Valley, thank you for your courage and kindness. I want to remind you all to share your stories, your pictures, and your memories during this time, this week, and this annual event here on this page. We are all a community that is here to make a difference every step that we take. From October 11th through October 17th, culminating in our event on Saturday at 9:30 a.m., we will do what we can to keep you all involved, remind you of why you walk, why we walk, and continue to inform you along the way. It's important that you remember to use the hashtag WalkForHope2020, WFH 2020, and tag Samaritans of the Merrimack Valley as you keep your communities involved across multiple different platforms. Invite your friends, raise your money, but most of all, talk, 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 because the conversation is what's most important. Use this group as your way of staying in touch with those who would normally be by your side as you walk with us. We are here for you. Now, I want to leave you with these words to remind yourself of what is to come. Believe in yourself and all that you are. Know that there is something inside of you that is greater than any obstacle that you may come in contact with. Because since you started watching this video, 5 individuals have lost their life due to their own battles with mental health and suicidal thoughts. So I ask you, why do you walk for hope? Because I walk for you. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm State Senator Barry Feingold, and I'm happy to be participating virtually today for such an important cause. I'd like to thank the Samaritans of the Merrimack Valley and Deborah Helms for their work to make this the 4th annual Walk for Hope. Mental health awareness has always been near and dear to me, and these days it has become even more of a priority as we see the effects of COVID-19 on mental health. Through any kind of crisis or national emergency, most of us experience increased levels of anxiety or depression. And when the economy largely closed in April, we all experienced some kind of loneliness and long for the times of faces and connections and embraces that we're all used to. But for many, this has been a long-lasting and impactful journey with mental health. Suicide has doubled since 2018, and we know students and young people are struggling with a lack of socialization. 9 out of 10 young people are in screening for depression, and 8 out of 10 are in screening for anxiety, citing loneliness and isolation most often. Nearly half of Americans report that the effects of the pandemic are harming their mental health. Hotlines for people in emotional distress saw a 1,000% increase in calls in April compared to April of last year. Models suggest that with economic downturns and national emergencies, suicide rates increase and overdose deaths and substance abuse disorders go up. We have to advocate and show up for one another to prevent those kinds of tragic outcomes. Today, we're doing one of the most important things we can, talking about these challenges. By speaking openly about mental health and the challenges we all face with our own mental health, we normalize it. We encourage those who have kept quiet about the struggle with mental health to speak up. And when they speak up, we can be there for them, and we can connect with them to make sure they have the help they need. No doubt this new normal makes it harder for us to know how our loved ones are doing. Teachers aren't seeing their students as much in the classroom, and we aren't seeing our coworkers in the office. And we're not seeing our friends as often as we used to. We see our loved ones through a screen more than anything these days, and that really makes it difficult to read their body language and get a true sense of how they're doing. That is why we need to be proactive about checking on each other and taking a moment to focus on conversations on mental health. Challenge yourself to share your own feelings and strategies for caring about your own mental health. It can empower someone else who needs support to ask for it. Beyond the caring and the judgment-free conversations we can have with each other, there are resources available. For anyone who's considering therapy, telehealth services are an option, and therapy appointments can be conducted virtually with telehealth. 988 is a new 3-digit dialing number for the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, where you can speak with a trained crisis center worker 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Their services are free and they're confidential. And maybe you don't need these resources, but you can share them with someone who might. Even if just sharing these resources on social media, you can reach people you may know that don't even think that they need these resources, but actually now do because you present it to them. As a legislator, I am grateful to have the opportunity to bring awareness to mental health at a statewide level and to file legislation that could really make a difference. This session, I filed the Save Student Act and Conrad's Law. Save Students will implement an anonymous reporting system at schools so students can reach out anonymously for themselves or with concerns for a peer. This is so important when we think about the prevalence of online bullying and the increased amount of time students spend texting and communicating via social media. Conrad's Law would criminalize suicide coercion, and it's named for Conrad Roy, who tragically completed suicide after sharing his suicidal thoughts with his girlfriend, who encouraged him to take his life. This bill will lead Massachusetts to join over a dozen other states in making suicide coercion illegal and send a strong message that coercing someone to harm themselves is unacceptable. COVID-19 shifted our legislative priorities, but I look forward to advancing these bills when the legislative session begins again. And as we continue to feel the weight of this pandemic while adapting to these changes, my office will continue to serve as a resource to those in need. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me at 617-722-1612, or you can email me at barry.feingold@masenate.gov. And my staff and I will get you the help that you need. Thank you again for taking the time to bring awareness to such an important issue of mental health. Stay well and be safe.
Good morning and welcome to our 4th annual Walk for Hope. I've had the privilege of being the director for the Samaritans of Merrimack Valley now for 16 years, and I want to welcome each and every one of you, and I'd like to also thank a lot of people. Obviously, this isn't done in a vacuum. We've had great support from a number of people. Senator Moulton, Senator Desaglio, and Senator Feingold have all participated in the walk, and we appreciate their ongoing support for suicide prevention. I'd also like to thank all the people at Family Service who have worked really hard to get this going. Rosie, Lori, Liz, Sarah, Brian, Jenny, all of you have done a marvelous job of fundraising and keeping in touch with all the people that have registered. And lastly, I'd love to thank Rosemary Heisler. She's been a facilitator for our support group for loss survivors for a number of years now, and she is just the best person in the world. So thank you to all of you, and if I forgot somebody's name, I do apologize. I'd also like to just thank my family and my extended family. They provide support to me not only for the walk, but all year through. So I'd like to just tell you a little bit about the Samaritans of Merrimack Valley. We've been around for 40 years this year. We're part of Family Services of the Merrimack Valley, which we're thrilled to be part of. And we have a lot of different kind of support services and trainings. For example, we have a couple support groups that are virtual now for people who have lost somebody to suicide. And we run one of very few support groups for people who have attempted suicide in Massachusetts. And we are so grateful to those remarkable people because we're learning a lot. We do a lot of trainings. If you'd like any information about our services, please go to www.fsmv.org and look under the Samaritans page. We'd be happy to discuss anything you need further. Just a little bit about our services and how they're going to be impacted by COVID. I'm sure we're not unique in this. A lot of particularly nonprofits are being really affected by the economy because of COVID. We plan on doing our very best to provide all of the services that we do now. And we're also sort of expecting an increase, particularly in the mental health field and suicide prevention. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about making a contribution possibly down the road or the next couple of years, because our services are really going to be in great demand. We appreciate everybody who's contributed and registered for the walk this year. And just to leave you on a little hopeful note, we know based on our experience that when people pull together in tough times, they can make miracles happen. And I just want to let you know that we truly appreciate everything everybody's done for this. And we hope to see you again next year, but hopefully in person.